I gave you hope for a Knicks fan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give myself or other Suns fans, all 10 of them that are watching us, some hope. They traded an older player, large contract, Paul George, to the Clippers for what people would have determined then as a good trade.
Mm-hmm.
Because they were like, ooh, they got their guys.
Because they got him with Kawhi at the same time.
So they had their three that they were really excited about. If I'm getting rid of a KD,
who's better than Paul George, was better then during the time of the trade, and is better now.
There's no one's going to doubt that.
Yeah.
There's nobody, I don't even know a single person walk of life that would say that. I feel like Kawhi, even with his injuries, is better than Paul George.
Mm-hmm.
So they get an all-star for Paul George. They get the MVP. They got the MVP of the league who was in LA. Now, mind you, he's in LA. He wasn't on the Lakers, but he was on the Clippers in LA. The Clippers had him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, isn't that I've been an NBA fan for way too long. The Clippers have been so bad for so many years. Like, of course they made that trade. Like, of course they traded away the MVP. You know what I mean? For Paul George.
Like you said, though, at the time, like you're thinking, man, go Clippers. Like, do your thing. You're getting Paul George and Kawhi. You just got Kawhi off of the NBA championship with Toronto. He won a championship 1 year, and then he's ready to move on and come back home to LA. That was a pivot from the Chris Paul, Blake Griffin years, right? Where they probably should have fared better than they did, where they were relevant, but they never got to the big, the final game. They never got to the championship. So man, I feel bad for them.
Did they make that move when the new owner came in too? I feel like that was around the similar time frame, because the Suns had the new owner. And when the Suns had the new owner come in, what they did there is that
I don't think it was right after Ballmer came in, but it was, it was in this first maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, I just, they're trying to get, like, it's the same feeling that Suns when they got Beal with KD,
Yeah. I don't know. It felt like, to me, like I remember being pretty impressed. Like, teams usually, unless you're the Lakers, who just like always seem to be able to like pluck other people's superstars at the right times. Like there's usually like the lifespan is like you get a good core of players that contends, they make it as far as they can, and then you have to break it all the way down and start and rebuild again. And it's like a peaks and valleys. And it seemed like they kind of skipped the valley because they had the what's his name, DeAndre Jordan, Blake Griffin, Chris Paul years, and then they kind of just like went right into that next phase with Kawhi and Paul George, and now they pivoted again, and they're still a playoff caliber team. I don't know, man, but they're never quite like all the way there.
I feel like the GM for OKC, because it's not like they just have great players. They have great players. They have a great team, and they have a ton of picks.
And they get their talent from everywhere.
But I think
they should free agent signings, draft picks, G League, undrafted player signings. Like that guy, he'd be my GM to start a franchise.
I think they should write about the moves OKC has made over, and I'm sure they have, but I mean like a book, you know what I mean?
Oh, I'd love to read that.
Going inside with him, talk to him about the moves and how he was crafting them, because you could totally see him holding on to a player like a Paul George. You could totally see him justifying every move to not make the move he's made, because again, you got more picks. What are you going to do with more picks?
Right.
You got this guy, you got that guy. Like, even this offseason, them signing in the free agency an additional center when you have this the Gonzaga kid.
Hunger.
Who yeah, you have Holmgren who hurt himself this year.
Yeah.
But they signed in the offseason this
Other starting caliber center. Like,
and he
really good.
Stepped in, and he has been fantastic for them.
Yeah.
And you just look at that, and you're like,
The Knicks
foresight to not say, I'm okay.
Him.
I'm okay. I have Chet. I'm okay.
And they got Alex Caruso too. What a great free agent pickup.
I would love to see a book just with him about the last 5 to 6 years, because again, there's nobody covering the NBA that looks at OKC and goes, that's the destination. That's where players want to go to play. They don't. They're not interested. They aren't interested in covering them very much. Like even when they moved from Seattle and they had KD and Harden and Westbrook. Like think about from that to this. Like when they lost those teams, I was like, oh, I guess OKC's never going to be content. They're going to be in the abyss. And now they're number one, and they have all these picks. They have great young players. They don't have like a 35-year-old great guy. They got 20-year-old guys.
Yeah. No, they
could even draft.
Years.
They could even draft, because they have other people's picks. They can draft great talent that they know is a year or two away.
Absolutely.
So they are, and again, who's betting against this GM?
And not to keep harping on the KD thing, but as he would be an example, they could take a risk on just swing, if they somehow got knocked out in the second round this year, or even the conference finals, and felt like, all right, we're not as prepped as we thought we were. They could take a swing at trading for a superstar and it completely fly in their face, not work, fall, just be a disaster. But it wouldn't be a big deal. It would be like a blip on the radar screen for them, because they have so many extra picks, so many good young talents. It really wouldn't be a big deal for them.
Do you know why I don't think it wouldn't fall on their face? Because the other players, the bench, the starters, they're all bought in.
Yep.
So if you show up as a superstar and you start acting all high and mighty, or I can't,
not gonna work.
If you're not going to do that, they're going to just say, we're not going to play. We don't care.
Yeah.
You need to be bought into that culture.
They have the luxury that if and when they want to make a superstar trade, they're going to do it for the right guy. They're going to do it for the guy that fits them.
I just feel like you just can't emphasize enough to trade away a Paul George, to be able to see that, to know that, and to be confident in that move, and to be able to justify it. That's very rare. That's why a book about this GM would be fantastic.
Yeah.
See what he was thinking. He must have saw. I mean, again, my favorite is they go to Doc Rivers, and he's was the one who was coaching SGA, and you're like, oh yeah, we all saw it was going to be great. I'm like, then why would the Clippers trade him if they thought he was going to be the guy?
I don't think anyone thought he was going to be this great.
Nobody thought he was.
He was a fun player. As a rookie, he was definitely a guy that a lot of teams looked back on, were why didn't we pick this guy up? But I don't think anyone thought MVP.
At the time of the trade, there are you could probably name 20 players that are MVP caliber players before him.
Mm-hmm.
Not 5, not 6, 20. And I guarantee you, if you talk to every GM in the league, they would have said the Clippers, Paul George is better than him.
Oh yeah.
He may have more upside, but Paul George is a much better player. The majority of GMs would have said that.
Yeah. I think most teams make that trade at the time.
I don't disagree with you about making the trade at the time. I'm just simply arguing this idea that everyone saw it, or the people who were around him saw. No, they